Welcome to the Welsh Church Act Committee, State Committee, dated Monday the 6th of September at 4 p.m. I welcome you all. The first bit of the meeting, I'm now going to defer to Liz Whittaker, our Democratic Officer, who's going to read out the housekeeping. So over to you, Liz.
Thank you, Chair. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking? If a participant wishes to speak, can they use the remote raise hand function? If a participant raises their hand via the remote function and is not subsequently invited to speak by the chair, please could they turn their camera on to indicate or place a message in the chat function. When invited to address by the chair, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on to ensure that they can be seen and heard when actively participating. If this is not possible for any reason, please bring this to the attention of the chair and or the Democratic Services Officer as soon as possible. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues or to get the attention of the chair or Democratic Services Officer. If any participant has difficulty hearing or being heard when they are addressing the committee, then they should let the chair or Democratic Officer know. So please could I welcome all elected members, officers and guests, and also anyone watching the live meeting broadcast. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Liz. And we now go to the actual agenda for the meeting. The first item on the agenda, which is on number 1, is apologies for absence. Do we have any?
One apology.
Councillor Drake? Councillor Drake, do you want to come in, Councillor Drake? Yes, Councillor Drake. We cannot see you. Can you hear us, Councillor Drake? Can't see you or hear you, but I think it's probably apologies for Councillor Hamilton. I'm going to say that anyway. Apologies for Councillor Hamilton because we can't hear or see you. Councillor Drake, if you could contact Democratic about your issues about sound and volume. Okay. Liz, do you want to come in here?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just to confirm that it was Councillor Hamilton that I was going to pass his apologies for as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're now moving to any declarations of interest. Do we have any? No, yes, Councillor Morgan.
Only to mention briefly, I see that there's an application from St Nicholas Church on the agenda. I'm not a member of that congregation, but I am a member of the East Vale group of parishes, which includes St Nicholas. I don't really think that affects my involvement in any way, but I thought I should mention it.
Okay, James, do you want to come in on this, being the legal officer?
Hi there, Chair. Obviously, yeah, with all matters of these kinds, it's for the members to kind of cast their judgment as to whether they feel it's a personal prejudicial interest. We tend to advise that members err on the side of caution. So if they're not sure, then we would generally say it was safer to declare rather than continue.
Okay.
But that's for Councillor Morgan.
Okay, thank you. That's obviously up to Councillor Morgan's view to see what he feels. Okay, but you heard the advice. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't think it's a prejudicial interest, so I will make my comments. Yeah.
Fine. Okay, that's fine. Thank you for that. And we're now moving on. We have got an investment
Chair,
update.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, Chair. We didn't quite cover the previous minutes. If we could go back to that item. Thank you.
Of course. Sorry about that. I forgot. All right. And are you happy for me to approve and accept the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of July? Yes, Councillor Drake?
Yes, I'll move those.
Okay. We got Councillor Hooper and Councillor Champion.
I'll second the Mark.
Thank you very much. Councillor Charles Champion, are you also supporting the minutes as well?
Yeah, there was an action on the last minutes, and I assume that was taken because of it's showing. But just to ratify that.
Yeah, that's fine. Happy to do that. Okay, then. That's fine. All right, then. We now move to the investment update, CCLA. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just waiting.
Councillor Hooper, could I ask you to deactivate your request to speak, please? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think that's Mr. Russell, is it, I believe?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Liz if she would kindly share my screen. Firstly, Chairman, thank you very much for inviting us to present this afternoon. How much time would you like me to dedicate to this? Because it can be as long or as short as you like. It's sometimes a dry old subject, so I'm very happy to fit in with what you would like me to do.
Well, how much you think, how many slides, how much you think you need?
There are 17 slides. I think they will, shall we say, 15 or 20 minutes?
That's fine. I was thinking on that sort of basis, say a maximum of 20 minutes and maybe 5 minutes for any questions after that, perhaps. If we do questions at the end, and I think that'd be the best way of approaching this, since you've got 17 slides.
Yep, no, I'll rattle through them. And the first thing I should say is I'm here on behalf of Antonia Cavalier, who is on annual leave today, so I'm just standing in for her. So could you share my slides, please?
Okay, we got no signal at the moment, so let's see what's going on.
Bear with us, Chair.
Sure.
So while we're trying to find the slides, perhaps I'd just say a few introductory words, because we have recently been appointed to manage your investments for the Welsh Church Act estate. For those who don't know CCLA, first question I get asked is what does CCLA stand for? It stands for Churches, Charities and Local Authorities. It was actually started by the Church of England in 1958. They are no longer invested or directly involved with the management of CCLA, but we run quite a lot of money for the Church of England. We're active managers. We service most of our clients through pooled funds. We're the largest investment manager for charities in the UK, both by number of clients. We've got 33,000 clients, charity clients, and by assets under management. We are, in fact, a mutual. So majority of our business, 90%, is owned by the underlying funds in which we invest. So any excess profits that we make as a firm go back into paying dividends into our funds. And ESG or sustainability issues are very much a key part of what we do. So that was just a bit of introduction.
Fine, thank you. We obviously got problems with the signal. I'm getting no signal on my screen. I'm just wondering what's happening, Liz. Do we have any updates?
We are, we're having difficulty to present the slides at the moment, but I am going to send it over to Gemma, who has offered to share them on our behalf. So we can try that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, fine. I'll just wait a minute or so before we can see that, because obviously it's not fair to do the speaking without seeing the presentation. I give it 2 more minutes. If not, we go, well, I'll have a chat with Liz about where we're going to go next on this.
I've just sent the presentation over to Gemma, so hopefully she may be able to share from her end.
Okay, thank you. I'll give it a couple of minutes and then I'll have a little
Chair.
chat.
Brilliant.
Good. So do you want to start your presentation now? That would be great.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Chairman. If we can go on to the next page, I've said a little bit about CCLA. So moving on to the next page, this gives you one after this, please.
That
Here we
one.
are. I hope you can all see that. So this is showing your current valuation for your portfolio, £1,931,532. We received in from yourselves £1,869,075 between November last year and 9th of February this year. This is right at the bottom in that note. So you're showing a profit on your original investment of just over £62,000. At the same time, you've received £40,000, £40,603 in income already. Your projected annual income is just under £55,000. So that's what you have predicted on a calendar year basis for income and grant making. Moving on to the next page, this basically shows what's been happening in markets. No surprise really that global equities have been the standout performer over the last 12 months. Global equities up 20% over the year, and that's really been driven by US equities in particular, those IT, AI stocks, the Magnificent Seven. I'll come on to talk about those in a second, have driven markets upwards. The next best performing asset class has been gilts, where we've got a half weighting. That's up 6.8%. Cash, the next line, the third best performing area at 5.3%. And importantly, the red line is inflation. So you may remember inflation was up at 11.1% in October 22, the time of the short-lived Liz Truss premiership, and where we had interest rates going up and inflation going up, and then property at the bottom. So all asset classes giving a positive return, but global equities giving the best returns. So going on to the next page, this is a pool fund, so we put the long-term performance on this next page. Just coming. Sorry, it's a page before this. Thank you very much. So you'll see here the returns in a light blue line at the top, which give you, these are the net returns after costs. And really, in respect of you, you've already been in there a year, so, or just under a year. So over last year, the portfolio has returned 12.6%, and over 3, 5, and 10 years, those are annualized figures, what they've achieved over those periods, but obviously weren't invested prior to last November. We run this portfolio against inflation plus 4% net, that's after fees. So over the year, we doubled that really with the return of the fund. So CPI plus 4 was just under 6%. This has done 12.6. But you can see the 3 and 5 year numbers. We've been behind that particular benchmark, mainly because we've had very high inflation, about 11.1% back in 2022. And that, although inflation's come back under control, has distorted the 3 and 5 year numbers for CPI plus 4, but we're well ahead over the 10-year period. We also measure ourselves against a comparative benchmark. And over the year, we've been behind the benchmark against the comparator, and that's really because we haven't had a full weighting in the Magnificent Seven stocks. We've had 4 of the 7, but we haven't held Apple, we haven't held Tesla, and we haven't held Meta. But against our competitors, that's the ARC Steady Growth Charity Index. Again, we've been ahead over every single period. So I think in terms of performance, it's been a good period of performance, particularly over the 1 year, except against the comparative benchmark. If we go on to the next slide, you will see that this fund over the last 10 years has had a cumulative return of about 140%. That's cumulatively, which compared to our peer group competitors has been about double the peer group. That's 69.26%. So I hope that gives you confidence that we've been well ahead of not only comparative benchmark, the CPI +4 benchmarkers, and also the peer group. Moving on to all-important dividends. What we're trying to do with this fund is increase dividends by about 2% per annum. We declare the dividend in November each year for the year ahead. That's because we are investing on a total return basis. So we take not only the natural income, but we also add a bit of capital. Going into 2023, I'm thinking more of November 2022, we were unsure about what was happening with interest rates and inflation. So we maintained that dividend in 2023 and have put it up in the current year. And I gave you the forecast income for you of £55,000 for the current calendar year. We've never cut the dividend, incidentally, on this fund, which was launched in 2009. If we could go on a couple of slides, and I'll just say a little bit about this fund. The next one after this. It's the COIF Charities Ethical Investment Fund. COIF stands for Charities Official Investment Fund. It's a range of funds that we run at CCLA. This fund, as I said, was launched 15 years ago in 2009. It's one of our flagship funds. As you can see there, it's £2.35 billion in size. It's multi-asset, it's diversified. We're trying to produce a progressive income for you. So we do all the work in the fund. So you buy units in the fund, you receive 4 dividends a year, which are declared at the end of every calendar quarter. So March, June, September, and December. So the September dividend will be declared at 30th of September, and all dividends are paid 2 months later. So you'll receive the September dividend at the end of November. We also have 2 classes of units: income units, which you're invested in, and accumulation units, which accumulate the income within the fund if you need that. You'll see there a pie chart of all the investments. The huge majority of investments really there are in equity. They tend to be US and European equities. And the benchmark is 75% equities, 15% fixed interest, 5% property, and 5% cash. So we're underweight in those 4 categories, but we're overweight in infrastructure, private equity, and contractual other income. And I'll say a bit more about those asset classes in a second. So that gives you a snapshot. We've got about 130 stocks within the portfolio. There's about 80 individual stocks, so we invest on an individual basis. And then we've got about 50 third-party funds, like in property, in energy, in contractual income, and private equity, etc. So if we go on to the next fund, this shows you going down to the next level. This is where we're investing on a sectoral basis. Within this ethical fund, we don't invest in conventional energy companies, the BPs, Shells, Texaco, for 2 reasons. One is really on climate change, and the other is on a lot of these energy companies use a lot of capital, which we think we can use better in other areas. So no energy. We have quite a few green energies investments. No materials like mining at the moment. We've got 1 utility stock in the US. And then really where we are invested is in IT and AI. And really, over the last 12 months, we've maintained that exposure. IT has been our largest sector, but we've been taking profits, particularly from firms like NVIDIA and some of the semiconductor companies. Healthcare, we've also taken some profits, and we've come out of a couple of stocks, Intuitive Surgical, which do robotics for non-invasive surgery, and also Viva, which is cloud computing for pharma and life science companies. And we've also reduced our exposure to financials. We're not in banks directly, but when things like Visa, MasterCard, and stock exchange, the Deutsche Börse and the London Stock Exchange. But we have increased exposure to the consumer. We've things like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Nestle, and in the discretionary area, investments like Starbucks, Nike, and O'Reilly, which is a US automotive company. So those are the sort of sectoral positions. If we go on to the next slide, this shows you the top 20 holdings within the portfolio. The top 20 make up about 31% of the total portfolio. I was mentioning the Magnificent Seven. We have got 4 of them in this portfolio. Microsoft, Amazon, and Alphabet are in the top 20, and NVIDIA is just below the top 20. It's not listed on this slide. So it's interesting to note that Microsoft and Apple, which you don't hold, are both bigger as corporate entities than the whole of the UK stock market put together. So they're just enormous companies. So you can see that the largest holdings we've got are the 2 gilts we've got in the portfolio. We've also got a property fund and a short duration bond fund. The rest are individual stocks held within the portfolio. Now, happy to talk about any of those individual stocks when we get to the end. The next page shows some of the deals, so purchases, additions, sales, and reductions in portfolios. So we've added to the Compass Group as a catering group, and Ashtead, a UK-US company who focus on building materials and hiring of equipment for the building trade, most particularly in the US. So those are some of the trades we've done over the last quarter. And then ready to complement the equities, if we go on to page 13, you will see that we've got a number of other alternative assets. So contractual income are things like mezzanine debt and private credit held through KKR, doctors' surgeries, and things like music catalogues. We've actually got out of the 2 music catalogues we owned. Infrastructure is really a big area. So we're in things like Macquarie, Korea, Hickle, and these investments are really here as a substitute for bonds. We didn't hold any bonds for about 10 years. We went back into the market at the time of the October 22 mini budget with Liz Truss. As you can see, fixed interest is just over 8% there on the right. We've got private equity, which are companies like Blackstone, HG Capital, and Oakley. And property is held. We've got our own property company called the Coif Property Fund. You don't get double fees, by the way. And then we're also investing in REITs, the Tritax Big Box or Tritax Euro Box, and also student accommodation. And then finally, a bit of cash at the end. So it gives you a wider spread. I just wanted to say a couple of words about our deposit fund. You're not invested in it, but I think just worth mentioning it because a lot of our charities do invest in it. It's currently yielding 4.83. That's after fees, and fees are 0.2%. It's a AAA rated fund. It deals daily, so you can put money on a daily basis, get money out on a daily basis. It's 1.7 billion pounds in size. A lot of our clients love this because the retail banks are just not giving you any returns for deposits. So if you have got deposits and you want to open an account with us, this is a bit more detail. And the next two slides if you move on, the next two slides, I've covered that slide, shows you what the maturity, we can't be more than 60 days in average maturity for this fund. So I was just going to mention that, and then I won't dwell on page 16 because those are just the counterparties in which we place the deposits out in the market. So I think just in terms of, we've made good progress since investing your funds from last November through to February. So you've seen a good capital appreciation. You've seen steady income. I think looking at your last accounts on Charity Commission website, I think there's been some improvement in the income. Hopefully it allows you to manage your grant giving in a bit better way, knowing what your income's going to be. As I mentioned, markets have been driven by the Magnificent Seven. Inflation continues to fall. As I mentioned, back in 22, UK inflation 11.1, it's now 2.2%. So I think economists and markets are looking at, we've got a new government, a lot of change going on. We've heard about the black hole. We've seen a number of increases in pay. This may affect inflation going forward, but I think the current government have got a good handle on, they recognise they need to promote growth. But they've got a black hole to fill. So at the moment, we feel growth is weak. You can see in the US, it's about 2.5% last year, 2.5% this year. And actually, it's picked up a bit here. So we think that inflation will continue to sort of decelerate, particularly in the US. We'll have to wait and see what happens here in the UK. So we feel it's a bit of a Goldilocks scenario, not too hot, not too cold. We should, if you like, avoid a recession. Geopolitics is a big issue. You only got to look around the world, particularly in Ukraine and in Gaza. And, any of those two situations could get out of control. We have had half the world this year having elections. South Africa didn't come to an overall conclusion. They had to have a coalition. The same in India. We've had the UK election, as you know, and in November we've got the US election that's quite close. I think the market thinks that it's Trump's to lose, but Kamala Harris seemed to have come out ahead in the last debate. So I think our view is that we're continuing to have a diversified portfolio. We're investing in quality companies that can grow their earnings, generate free cash flow, have got a strong balance sheet, and can deliver those returns going forwards. So I think that's really, I think I've spoken for 25 minutes. I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have. I say I was standing in for Antonia, who's on annual leave, and be very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell, for your presentation. I thought it was very interesting. So it's over to members now. So members got any questions for Mr. Russell? and just see if there's any indication. If there isn't, I will ask a couple of questions on my. Okay. Morgan, did you want to ask a question? Councillor Morgan?
No, really, just a comment. I thought it's a very good presentation, and I'm certainly going away with the impression that the money is in good hands and well looked after. But thank you very much for the detailed explanation. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I just got a couple of questions. I'm just wondering about the monitoring of equities and funds, Mr. Russell. I mean, obviously, certain equities and funds go down in value. And how often do we monitor or intervene in that? And just wondered, perhaps, how often do you do that every year? That's the first question. My second question is, when you said about profit, does that mean selling some of the shares or some of the equity or some of the funds? Just a little question mark on that. So those are my two questions.
Well, let me start with the last question first, which was we do have a price target, if you like, for it when we invest in a stock, both up and down. And I think Nvidia was certainly a stock which we've been constantly trimming. I think since over the last 3 years, that stock's been up about 650%. So we have been trimming a stock like that, and equally on the downside, we will, if it has a profits warning or if it's not performing well, then we'll sell it. So on either side, we do have these targets. I'm not sure on the monitoring. Obviously, we're monitoring the portfolio all the time. So we have 33 people who work in our investment team, and they are split between equity investment managers, asset allocators, and cash. And we've got about 11 people doing sustainability, ethical work. So it's quite a deep team. In fact, I think it's the largest team in the city for quite a small business. So we do monitor the funds. I should know, but I don't know whether you have an investment policy. If you haven't got one, we can certainly send you some information on creating an investment policy. It's quite useful to have. I think it's a recommendation of the Charity Commission. And certainly you should review your investments and investment manager from time to time, at least verbally annually, and have a more strategic look every sort of 5 or 7 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring in Gemma Jones, who's responsible for this. Gemma, do you want to come in here?
Hello, Chair. Yeah, we have a very brief investment policy within our accounts, which are coming before committee tonight. We did a far more detailed investment strategy a couple of years ago, but we probably do need to update that as part of the cycle this year. So we're doing that regularly. But yeah, we have and members can certainly give me their comments on the investment policy when we get to that item. We can take them into the accounts. Okay.
Fine, thank you for that. I think.
And Gemma,
sorry, do you want to come in, Mr. Russell?
Yeah, and just to say, if you'd like to send some information on that or some templates, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, very much appreciated. That would be brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
I'll get Antonia to do that when she gets back.
Thank you.
Okay. I haven't seen anyone else want to make any comment. So can I thank you on behalf of the committee for your presentation, Mr. Russell. I really thought it was very insightful and very interesting. And can I also thank you for your time as well. So thank you. And we note your presentation as a committee. So thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Russell.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, then we now move on now for applications for financial assistance. Over to you, Gemma.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of the applications for financial assistance, a few comments on the previous tranche one that was brought. Unfortunately, the appendix added up to the wrong figure. So that's why we've brought the appendix back before committee again. So the corrected figure is 18,880 pounds, and is included in Appendix A1 as part of this report. Now, we did have a delegation as part of the previous tranche around the Girls Club allocation. We didn't get a response on that information until towards the end of last week. So we have been given some sustainability information, which I shared with the chair towards the end of last week, and confirmation that they would be interested in applying for the full amount of £10,000. And actually, Chair, since I shared that information with you, I've also had some supplementary information from them as well. So I'm not sure whether members want to consider that increase sum as part of this committee. Unfortunately, that's not included in the report that's set out before you. We also have some new applications that are included in Appendix A2 to this report. And there are 4 applications, and members will be pleased to know that it's a relatively straightforward sum. It does add up this time. So the first application is for Grangetown Baptist Church, and that's one that's been recommended by Cardiff Council for urgent replacement and resiting of gas boilers. And the total project cost is just over 48,000. There are various other grant sources, but some of those grants are subject to approval. We have a grant application for the parish church of St Nicholas. So we have previously awarded a sum to the parish church of St Nicholas, and fortunately, upon having some further investigations regarding this scheme, the substance of that scheme has now changed, and therefore the organisation has asked to withdraw the previous claim and resubmit the amended application. So still for the same sum, because the previous award was for £10,000 in February 2024. So rather than repair the original Lynch Gate, this has now been demolished, and a slightly different scheme has been put before committee. Total project cost of just over 23,000, and some uncommitted restricted funds are being contributed towards the balance of that scheme. All Saints Church Building in Robina, this is a replacement boiler scheme after the boiler has been condemned, with a total project cost of £8,000. And they have applied for half of the sum because they already have some pledges in hand that have been raised specifically for that scheme. And then the final application is for Friends of Pedal Power. Again, this is recommended by Cardiff Council for the sum of £10,000 towards an overall scheme of £18,000. And this is in respect of the cycling participation scheme. These funds enable them to extend the programme, which would otherwise have completed. And I have gone back and asked some questions about the sustainability of this scheme, and apologies, there's a typo, but it's the intention of the organisation to submit further grant claims to further extend this project during that period. Okay, so those are the 4 new schemes that are before committee. The updated financials for committee are included in Appendix C, and we have, we were almost right in terms of our projected investment income for the year. So we've got around 54,000, which obviously is an improvement to the sums that we were seeing previously. We have a full year estimate of circa £12,000 for property rents, and a number of expenses, and we're expecting to draw down £20,000 from the reserve towards the cost of grant awards in year. Members will note that we are holding a relatively large balance in the reserve, and 118,000 of that is cash backed. So I think the investment advisors from CCLA made the point regarding deposit funds. We can invest that 100,000. I was going to propose £100,000 of that on a short-term investment basis. And we can either do that directly via a deposit fund, although it would take us some time to set that up, or we can do it via the council, who themselves place funds with CCLA, as well as with other local authorities and DMO. And we would obviously pay, I think typically we pay on the SONIA rate for the year. So a number of items put before committee this evening. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you very much. Yeah, open to members now before I move to any recommendations. Any member? You don't appear to have anyone indicating. Okay. In that case, then, I'm going to move them on block then from Appendix A2 that we move and we recommend all of them. That's the one recommendation. Oh, Mark Hooper. Councillor Hooper wants to come in. Go on, Councillor Hooper.
I just want to say I agree that we move them all on block, Mark. So it was very boring.
Thank you very much. I'm happy for you to second it. Well, thank you very much. Gemma, you mentioned about the £100,000. Do we need to make a decision, or can I leave that up to you for your expertise in this matter?
I don't think you need to make a specific decision. Obviously, the cash that the trust holds is held with the Vale Glamorgan Council, so we can transfer £100,000 of that into a short-term investment basis, and we'll obviously reflect that appropriately on the balance sheet. So yeah, I can arrange for that to happen. I think Councillor Champion wants to come in on that basis.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Champion.
All right.
Your screen, yeah, that's fine.
Right. Just to clarify, the 10,000 to the Girls' Society, which I think was approved in the last meeting, you were just mentioning that again, and it was approved in the last meeting, the 10,000.
I think it was open to our discretion, but I think we're bringing it back to committee. I'm happy to support that. But Councillor,
yes.
Gemma?
Chair, just to note that obviously because we weren't aware of that at the time of writing the report, because we hadn't yet received the information, so the balance of available grant funds would be £6,000 less if committee are minded to approve the full £10,000 for the girls' fund. So it'd be £31,120 available for allocation in year.
Okay. Are we as committee happy to put the extra money so amount to £10,000? Are we? Yes, Councillor Champion? Councillor Drake? Councillor Morgan? I take it these are indications, Councillor Hooper, that you're supporting all that, and Councillor Morgan? I think they are. So that's fine. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, we're now moving on to the annual report and accounts.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the annual reports and accounts have come before you. I have just noticed actually that I refer to the investments as the COIF investments without making any reference to the ethical nature of those investments. So if committee are happy, I will amend that within the accounts. There is a small change to the look of the account. So members will recall that historically we have shown the accounts in 3 columns. So we've had a kind of unrestricted fund, a restricted fund and a total fund across the statements of the accounts. This has been challenged by Audit Wales and is not in line with the other actually Welsh Church Acts across Wales. So I think although there are elements of restriction around the funds that the Welsh Church Act scheme has, the scheme isn't so prescriptive that it meets the definition to require us to have those 3 columns of the restricted fund, the unrestricted fund and total funds, and therefore to bring us into line with other Welsh authorities and having discussed the matter with Legal and Audit Wales, we've made that change to the accounts. So obviously where we make quite substantial changes to the accounts, although it doesn't change the figures, it does mean sometimes that we have slightly more issues with Audit Wales as we just get to the accounts that we're all happy with going forward. We've also had some significant change in terms of asset valuations in year, because we had our land assets revalued in year and slightly overdue for valuation. So they hadn't been valued since 2018-19. And they have gone up in value significantly. So around just short of £1.3 million increase in property investment value in year. We also had a small increase in investment value and a transfer from the short-term investments into the long-term investments, which reflects the CCLA investment that took place in year. In terms of investment income, as was kind of reflected with the CCLA update, I think really pleasing increase in investment income in year, and that's great to see, obviously, because it enables committee to allocate more grants. And we are seeing now, and we've seen that for the last few years, that we're tending to hold more kind of grant sums unawarded in year. So although they've been awarded, they haven't been paid out physically because the organisations haven't either completed the schemes or met the kind of information threshold we need to pay the funds over. So we are tending to hold slightly higher creditor amounts, but we've seen that trend for a number of years, and obviously we'll continue to monitor and liaise with the grant bodies to make sure that those schemes are being delivered. I think those are the main points that I was going to pick up on the report. As was picked up in the kind of investment update, we do have an investment policy in the report that I have updated, but there is undoubtedly room for improvement in terms of how I've updated it. So happy to take members' comments on that or any other part of the accounts. Once approved at this committee, subject to any changes, they'll be passed to Audit Wales for their independent examination. I think given the timescales and where we are with audits of other bodies, and they're understandably prioritising local authorities at the moment in terms of their audit effort, that's likely to take place in late December or January. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hooper.
Thanks, Chair. And this is more of a comment than anything else. We've just heard from the investment director of CCLA, and he talked about some of the funds that we were invested in. And we are trying to invest ethically here. And I just want to make reference, Apple have just fought and lost a case where they underpaid corporation tax in Ireland of 13 billion euros. Starbucks have an anti-income tax regime, so their regime is set up so they've got their office, as have Amazon in Luxembourg. So we do have to take this in the round. So we're taking these investments, we're spending them on good things, but we're actively supporting a number of organisations who have active policies where they reduce their corporation tax payments to the UK.
We seem to have lost you, Councillor Hooper. We got you back now.
You got me you lost me mid-rant, Mark. It's
I know. You were doing well up to that point.
Yeah, I flicked on the wrong screen. If only we were in the same room, it'd be great, eh? But it just strikes me as we really need to be aware of what we're doing. This is a small fund. I felt it was inappropriate to bring it up in front of the investment director because this is what they do and this is what we've bought into. But we should be aware of it and probably make sure that our investment policy reflects that. So it's because there are more ethical ways of investing money than doing this, one could argue.
Thank you. Gemma, do you want to come in here? And then I'll bring in Michael afterwards.
Chair, just to say that I agree. I mean, there were some names that I was slightly surprised to see in the list of investments in the context of ethical investments. And obviously, we did talk about it in terms of the investment update item that perhaps we're due. Now we've been in the with CCA almost a year, that it might be due a kind of review of the investment strategy, just to keep that under view in the context of committee's aspirations in terms of the ethical nature of investments as well as the return on investments.
I think Michael, do you want to come in? Not so Michael.
Only a quick point, because Mark was mentioning the Apple investment, but I thought that when he was going through his report that there wasn't an Apple investment. We haven't got the list in front of us. Perhaps we can check on that. Or did I mishear that?
No, I think he said they wanted to invest in the big seven in total. So this was a future policy engagement. So, you know, I think, sorry to cut and jump in without your permission, Chair. I hope you don't mind.
No, that's fine, Councillor. And I think that was helpful intervention anyway. Gemma, do you want to come in while I make a sort of recommendation? Yeah.
Just to clarify, Clay, Chair, yeah, absolutely. So Apple, Meta, and Tesla were the three of the big seven that they weren't currently invested with.
Yeah, fine. Councillor Morgan, do you want to come in again?
Yeah. Sorry, I had 2 points to make actually. The main question in Gem's report, you mentioned our investment properties, and it refers us to notes on pages 16 and 17, but I haven't got pages 16 and 17. Do we have a list of properties that we're invested in?
Gemma, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. So the investment properties note won't be of any use to you, unfortunately, Councillor Morgan, because it's in summary form. So it doesn't give you a feel for the types of, they are all land holdings. I think they're all in the Vale of Glamorgan, and some of them are quite sizable parcels of land, but there are some very small kind of slithers of land across the Vale as well. I can absolutely get a list of those assets and circulate it to committee members for information.
Thank you. That would be interesting to see.
Thank you. Has any other member got to come in before I come in again? No, I can't see that. First of all, I'd like to recommend the approval of the accounts on behalf of the committee and on behalf of the trustees. But the second point I would also like to make is an additional recommendation. I recommend that in a future meeting of the Welsh Church Act Committee that we do have a look at our investment policy and strategy going forward in the light of the comments made today, because, you know, I think you're likely to, you know, certain equities were pointed out, and I think lots of us had question marks over whether they are ethical or not. But I think if I have a conversation with the Vice Chair and Gemma about moving that forward, are you happy for me to move that additional recommendation? Councillor Hooper, do you want to come in?
But just want to say I'm happy with that recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Liz, are you happy for that for the record as well?
For that recommendation, great, thank you. Although I did want to check whether you wanted to add another additional recommendation around Gemma's suggestion of adding to the accounts about the ethical nature of the COIF fund.
I think that's fine, but I think it will be part of, we can add that in, but I think we then review it afterwards as well, because I think we need to have a discussion at a future meeting about the ethical nature of these investments, which is what I just made.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
That's all right, fine, thank you. I think I got no dissent on that. Councillor Morgan, do you want to come in?
Well, I was only agreeing with you, Chair, but I think we need another hand signal, because we've got a wavy hand. Perhaps we should have a thumbs up so it's clear what we're trying to communicate.
All right,
anyway,
then.
I support you.
Thank you. I think that's something we can bring to Democratic about the software updates. But thank you for that anyway. Okay, now moving on. I got nothing under part 1 urgent. I got nothing under part 2, but I wish to tell people the date of next meeting is the 20th of January at 4 p.m. And can I thank you all for your attendance today? So thank you all. Take care and see you later sometime at another meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care. Thank you all. Bye-bye.